Back to the channel. Hope you're all doing good. So yeah, part 2. In the last video, if you haven't watched it already, be sure to check that out. We were taking a look at this PlayStation 3 backwards compatible 60GB, model number CECHC03. So it's a backwards compatible original launch model PAL version. And I bought it as not working, so I was just picking it up for spares, and to my surprise it was working. A few things that we found out was the LED wasn't working down here, wasn't showing a standby light or a green light, and also the disk drive had, when I took it apart, because I was told that the disk drive didn't work, I found this inside it, which is a chewed up piece of plastic with Nintendo written on it, and I've since found out after googling it, it's actually a Nintendo DS game. The label was missing off the top of it, so I don't know what game it was, but somebody at some point obviously posted it through here, and it found its way in the machine. So after removing that, I cleaned the lens, greased up the rails and put it back together. That was all working fine now. I replaced the on and off button and the eject button board here, and now the LEDs will work okay. Been no problem with it running whatsoever. In the last video I put hybrid firmware on there, custom firmware on there, and we discovered that the RSX, the GPU, the temperatures are running absolutely fine, but the cell is running hot. I believe it had been on for about 45 minutes. The fan was up to 35% Syscon, and it was around 71, which you'd expect, because that's what it obviously tries to keep it at. But I think we can do better. So today, before the last resort, which will be delid, if we have to do a third video on how to delid, I'll do that. But today I'm going to try out this, which is a modification. It's known on the internet as the eraser mod. People use erasers that are pencil rubber that's been cut down, and then they drop it in behind the cell, and it creates, what's the best way of describing it? It's like a brace. It doesn't add pressure, it just evens out, distributes the pressure better. So I'm going to fit this today. I don't want to use an eraser, so there's a tolerance. Obviously it's manufactured, it's 3D printed, but it's better, it's more accurate, and it's stronger than a rubber. It's made of ABS plastic, so it can withstand temperatures up to 100 degrees. So these are readily available on the internet. I will link in the description where you can get them from. So today I'm going to install this and see if it drops our cell temperatures down, in case you guys were wondering whether it might actually work on your console. If you've got high temp, the fans are running high and coming in quickly and ramping up a lot, possibly this might fix it. So we're going to do a comparison today. So I'm going to fit this, and then we'll put it back on the bench, and we'll look at what sort of temperatures we're getting after 45 minutes of it running with this installed. On a side note, I haven't and I won't be bending the two clamps, which you can do obviously as well. Again, I'm going to just leave it factory. We actually discovered as well, this particular console on Webman, it was showing up as a 9-day console, which obviously, if you know a little bit about these machines, it's quite a rare thing. Generally they average around 100 to 150 hours. I've seen them up to 350, 400 hours. So it's a very low use console. When I got the console, I discovered that it was on firmware 2.52. So when I googled that was out in around 2008. The console was manufactured in 2006, and it's only got 9 days on it, give or take a few on-offs that don't add up. If you watch the last video, anyone in the comments section can tell me what the difference would be on the amount of turn-ons and turns-off, what that would add up to. I'm going to guesstimate around 13 to 14 days. I'm not sure, but if anyone knows precisely, that'd be great to know. So my theory is that it was bought around 2006. It was used for a couple of years, not a lot of use, and then somebody posted this through the disk drive for some reason, and probably a kid messing around or something. They discovered the disk drive then wasn't working, and I guess it just got shelved. Only a guess. The warranty seal was missing on the side, so somebody had been in here. I've had to replace this cover because it had a a dent in it. I did manage to pull the dent out, but I just thought I'd just replace it because I knew this one was straight. And as I say, I found this DS game inside it. So my guess is that obviously it's hard to tell with something this old. Here we are in April 2024. Anything could have happened since 2008, but it's interesting that it's got so low use days, and it's also the firmware that was on it was 2.52, which again, even the startup sequence, I'm sure the sound was different. You know, the PlayStation theme, should we say? It just sounded different. But it's on now 4.91, which is the most up-to-date firmware, and I've added custom firmware to it as well, so we can see what the temperatures are running at and we can adjust the fan. So I don't need to show you how to take it apart. I'm pretty sure you either know already, or you can see in my other video that I was taken apart. So the next time you're gonna see it is I'm gonna have it dismantled and ready to install the CPU brace or cell brace, and we'll see how we go with that. Okay, all right guys, I shall be right back. So I've been doing a bit of dismantling, just torn it all down, and this is where we're at. On the back side I've disconnected the fan, removed the battery, and taken out the 2 screws up here. These ones that we spoke about before. Battery's out, disconnected the fan, don't need to remove the fan completely. And now we've just got to take off these 4 screws again like we did before. So I'll just do a couple of turns on each. But this could be a good alternative to deliding. Sony themselves did actually manufacture, but not actually distribute, like sell privately as far as I know. I've seen pictures of them, I've taken loads of these apart, and I've never actually seen one in the flesh, but I've seen them on the internet. Something very similar to this. And in my mind it's far better to use something like this that's actually built for purpose, rather than risking uneven erasers cut down sitting on top of the motherboard. And you get these, and obviously they're manufactured, they're 3D printed, so you have to have certain tolerances to be expected. It's made of ABS plastic, so it can withstand the heat, but it's far more accurate and far more better distribution socket where we're going to put it, but I'll show you that in a second. So as we did last time, just take this back off. Again, for the sake of 3 screws to take the fan out, it's well worth it. I could probably just grab hold of it and just pull it. It may just come, but as I said in the last video, got to be very careful with these, because you know the suction that's created between the thermal paste and the heat spreaders it's putting a lot of stress on what's on underneath, and the only thing left to break or give way would be to crack the solder balls on the bottom of the GPU or RSX or the bottom of the cell. These bits of these braces, they're only as good as what they are. It's going to be mixed results. You may find you get a big difference, a little difference, or no difference, but if you're going to try the eraser mod, if you're going to cut up pieces of rubber, or if you're going to put thermal pads in there, there's going to be give in them as well. This is tough ABS plastic, so if you're going to try something like that, it'd be best off just to use something that's fit for purpose. It still may not work, but it's a cheap alternative to deliding. And now we've got that one out, maybe it'll help. I want to redo the thermal paste in Arctic MX4. Last time I did it in MX2 because I wasn't sure whether it was going to work or wasn't going to work. So this time I'm going to do it in MX2. If you just don't really want to change the thermal paste on top of the heat spreaders, you don't need to do what I'm doing now. You can just leave it all as it is, the fan in place. Don't bother splitting it like I am. This brace literally fits just there, like that. It's going to be sitting there, like that. So it helps support these 4 braces. So it gives it extra stability to save any motherboard bend, and it will apply even distributed amount of force as these are getting clamped together again. And that's all it does. It doesn't add more pressure, it just literally stabilizes what's here already. So a good alternative, you start putting rubbers on here that are cut roughly, or is that just enough thermal pads, something like this, you can be sure that it's actually going to be in the right place, it's not going to move around. So I'm going to carry on with this because I want to reapply the thermal paste, but as said, if you're just going to install this into there, you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to take the fan out, you don't need to disconnect anything. Just literally get it down to the board, flip it over, and then just install that and then put it all back together again. But as I say, I want to do that, so I'm going to bring you right back once I've got this released, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Oh, there we go, look, it's off. So I'll keep you with me for now. So that's what we did last time. It's a good opportunity to show you what I was saying about the thermal paste. You can see there, even though I put it across with, I spreaded it across rather than just putting a dollop in there, it did still just about miss the corners. That one's better, but that one definitely missed the edges. And I can show you what happened on this one. Importance of scoring that L shape into it. You can see how much paste has actually been missed. I always cut the edges with a blade, just so I know, especially if I'm going to delid it again at a later date, where these heat spreaders actually have to go, because you actually have to fit them to this first and then you offer the motherboard down to it. If at a later date, if this doesn't improve anymore with the brace, then I'll be deliding this. And if we need to do that, then I'll do another video and show you guys how I do that. There is actually one on my channel already, me just deliding a cell. So if that's something that might interest you, please check that out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up both of these and clean up these, and then we're going to put some more thermal paste on it. I'm going to use MX4 this time, and then I will bring you right back. That's all been cleaned up now. Just show you again on here, so you can see these little marks that I've put in the corners. That's where the original positioning of the old thermal paste was. Marked it that if I do need to delid the console, then I'll be able to take this off, turn it upside down, and place it exactly where it used to be from the original manufacturer, so it'll be sitting dead straight and dead orientation right there when it goes back down again. Hopefully it won't come to that. So we're all cleaned up. As I said before, everyone's got their own way of doing this. Some people just put a great big dollop on each one, other people put like a long line and then just drop it down on top. But you saw there, even though I did the spread method, it didn't quite reach the edges. Less is more. If it's all oozing out over the side, you can put too much of this stuff on and it won't be serving its purpose. It's only there to take out any discrepancies with it not sitting flat. So you don't need to have tons of it. So I'm going to do it again now, and I'm going to do it the same way because it's my chosen way. So I'm literally just going to I used MX2 because I knew that the console was overheating. So I didn't really want to waste this MX4, it's a bit more expensive. This is what I'd normally put on the machine anyway. So if I notice any significant difference with that brace installed, then this is how it's going to stay. I'm not going to unnecessarily delid it. Had no issues with the RSX at all, that was running fine. It was like 54 degrees at 35% fan speed after 40 minutes of it being on idle, which is pretty good. I mean, a lot of factors to take into consideration is how hot your room is, what country you live in, and all sorts of things like that. But you know, in my opinion, that's absolutely fine, that kind of temperature. Absolutely no need to worry about that one. It was the cell, so the machine was having to go to 35%, which is too much really for it to remain at 71 degrees, not even playing a game. While we're hitting this again. As I said before, it's only really there, it's an alternative to deliding. It may work, it's a safe alternative. You know, if you're not into putting any random things into there and not knowing exactly what kind of pressure you're putting onto the solder balls below this CPU, the safest way to do it would be always something like that. But of course, there's no guarantees with anything. But it is a modification that Sony did use on some of their, I reckon it was probably their refurbished consoles, to eke a little bit more life out of the thermal paste that's underneath these heat spreaders. Okay, I'm happy with that. I pulled it a little bit closer to the edges as well this time. I don't know if you can see that. Might just do a little bit more on this corner actually. Just look in there. Just going to put a little blob in the middle. Down there. And then we're going to drop this on top of it. Before we do that though, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We've got some thermal pads that are still on here, so these 5 are still there. Went through this last time, but they're still all pretty tacky, so I'm happy to reuse them. If they're all rock hard, then I'll have replaced them. And I think these ones are 2mm thick on the south bridge on this one, but I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've done one. I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, it was like 2mm, and these are all 1.5. So if you are going to replace, just double check on Google, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So now we've got them all ready to go. They're all ready to go. And now we can drop the motherboard back on top. And then we can install the brace. 2 metal pins that are sticking up. Got 4 little tabs at the top here. They have to go into there, so and then we just put it so it's virtually upright like that, and they hook in underneath. So make sure they're all there like that, and then drop that down like that. You see, if you use something too thick, this is all going to be sticking up too high. So it can only be sitting as high as the standoffs that are already there. So it's there just to literally support it. Just going to put these in here. And I haven't bent these clamps either. A lot of people will tell you to bend the clamps. You can bend the clamps, but again, it's putting a lot of more force on here. So today's experiment, I'm literally going to try it without bending the clamps, just leaving them as original. So all I do is I just centralise them, and I just get one in, a couple of turns, and then I'll put my thumb there just to keep it held down, and then do a couple of turns on that one. Doing a couple of turns on each one. Just to make sure that it's all even as it's going back down together again. Okay, I think we're there. That's it. And then we just need to flip it over. Don't actually need to take all this apart if you just want to just try the brace as it is, but I recommend, if you know, if you feel confident, changing the thermal paste at least on top of the heat spreaders is going to be a must. What this you're hoping to do is to get a bit more life out of the thermal paste that's under the heat spreader that's contacting the die, because that's what wears out. As I said, there's a video on my channel of me taking one apart, and you can actually see where I've cut the cell heat spreader off. You can see how bad the original thermal paste has got. Expertise, you do need some experience. You can't just, you know, any way if you cut that, if you try to cut off the heat spreader off the cell or take it off the RSX, you do run a risk of damaging, and they don't take a lot to stop working. Any undue stress on the solder balls beneath it, or any scratch deep enough to affect the membrane around the die can stop it working. So it's like literally a last resort really, and you do need a correct tool for doing it. I know there's different ways of doing it, painter's knives, fishing wire, things like that, but I've got a correct tool to do the job, and I've never had a failure with it as yet, touch wood. Just gives me the confidence to know that I can go that far with this if I need to, but I'd rather leave it without doing that. Deliding is definitely a last resort, and it always should be. Far too many risks involved, and you know you're cutting away the factory glue that holds down the heat spreaders, and you won't make it worse, I don't think, but at the same time though, you may sometimes you just get it wrong. There's just so many things that are risky with it. So yeah, for me it's always a last resort, but I wouldn't leave this machine getting that hot. It wouldn't be a good idea. So let's see how it goes with this brace. Okay, so next thing to do is obviously put all this back together again. I'm not going to put all the screws in and stuff. I'm just going to literally throw in what's necessary, and then I'll get it back up on the bench, and then we'll do a thermal test and see how we're looking. Yeah, back on the bench, been put back together enough to test. Haven't put the screws into there or into there, but everything else is back in. The nervous part always, making sure it still works after taking things apart. So just make sure it turns on okay. Leave it for 45 minutes and see what the temperatures are at. Should have done. Should have reset the date and time, but I think it's okay. .45 and 40. As I say last time, this is on CECHC at the moment, so we're going to leave it on there, and I will keep you posted, and we'll see what happens. The computer was cold, so we can get a real-time idea of what's happening with it. Before we were achieving, I think it was 54 degrees on the RSX at 35% fan speed that CECHC insisted, because the CPU was at, well, it was trying to boil up. It was on 71, it was holding there with 35%, but I reckon this can do better. So we'll leave this like this for now, just so anybody who might be out there, help us out in the comments. What I was talking about earlier is working out how many days this computer's actually been running. So we've got 9 days, 11 hours. It's been on 695 times. It's been off 304 times. So that's 391 times difference between the two. So that could have either been something to do with a failure with the computer itself, or people just turning it off at the back and not actually shutting down properly, which is very common on these. See, at the moment we've got fan speed at 20%. So what would be the actual difference between that 391? What would actually make that more of an accurate day span? That's the question, if anyone knows the answer. I'm going to guess around 13 days, but I might be wrong. So anyone knows actually how to work that equation out, please feel free to leave it in the comments. In the meantime, I'm going to let this keep running. It's been running for, let's take it back out of here. I always just take it over to something that's not going to cause any problems. I go to something like game settings, hold down start and select together at the same time till you hear the beep. And then we get an idea of how long it's been running. According to my phone here, it had been on for 3 minutes. That's how long I've been actually recording for. The date and time hasn't been set. The startup's going to stay at 0. So we need to set the date and time, do it by the internet. And then we need to do daylight saving. And that's the correct time, 24 seconds, 28 seconds. On my camera here, I've been recording now for, bear with me a second, I'll tell you. From the moment I turn the camera on, we're at 4 minutes now. So it's 4 minutes 37 seconds. So basically, anything that we see on the startup here, add another 4 minutes. That's how long it's been running. And then we're going to see what happens. So the fan at the moment is 20%. When this gets to around, I think it's 72 degrees, the fan will ramp up to 25 or 28%, and so on and so on. So we want to see what it looks like after 45 minutes to have a comparison to how it was without that brace installed. So I'm nearly at 5 minutes, so 6 minutes 31, and I think the first fan is going to kick in. If I can get to 7 minutes, that'd be nice. Factory thermal paste under the heat spreaders. And we're looking at around about 10 degrees difference between the CPU and the RSX at the moment. Or 74 degrees. There we go. I can hear it now. It's just kicked in. So that was another 4 minutes on top of that. So I've got 5 minutes 34 on the camera plus 2 minutes there. So that's nearly 8 minutes, 7 3/4 minutes for the first fan to ramp in. So I'm going to leave it there. I will come back when this is startups on 40 minutes. And we'll see that'll make 45 in total. And we'll see what this is saying. Let's see what the fans increased to, and see if it's made any difference. As I said before, it's not for everybody. It may not make any difference at all. It could make a big difference. It might make a little bit of a difference. I don't know. But that's what we're here to find out. All I know is it's definitely a safer way than cutting up a rubber or putting in thermal pads, making it uneven. So yeah, fingers crossed. It's worth a try before a delid. Alright guys, I'll be back in about 35-40 minutes. For you, it'll be a couple of seconds. See you soon. I thought I'd bring you back for a quick update. We're about 33 minutes in, 29 on the startup, and there was about 4 minutes of video before I got this set up. It's been hovering around 71, 72. It's just clicked to 73, and we're on 28% fan. So at the moment, all looking well. I'm thinking it's probably the fan will probably ramp up again at some point, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So I thought I'd just bring you back to show you how we're doing. I'll come back in about 10 minutes and give you another update, see if that fan's moved again. Just as a reminder, so we were on fan 35% and the CPU was on 71 and the RSX was on like 53, 54. So we'll see how it's looking about 40 minutes on the startup, which will make about 45 minutes in total, like it was in the previous video. And then we'll put the fan on 35% and leave it for 5 minutes and see what the temperature difference would have been if it had been at 35, to give us more of an accurate difference. So yeah, I'll be back. Okay guys, so yeah, here we are approaching 40 minutes on the startup, plus the extra 4 or 5 or whatever it was when I first initially turned it on. And as you can see, the CPU's up to 74, the fan's still holding at 28%. It's been fluctuating around 72 to 74 degrees for ages. RSX is sitting at 62. So already I can see a major improvement of what we had already by installing the CPU brace. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Webman and I'm going to set the fan at 35 and then see what difference that makes. We're looking for anything better than 71 on the CPU and about 54 on the RSX. That'll take about 5 minutes for it to establish. So the way we do that is we go to enable dynamic fan control and ticket, and then we want to change our lowest amount. We always need to go one more than what's actually needed. So we need to go, it's hard to do this with one hand, so we need to set this at 36 to make it 35. And tick that as well. And the auto is set at 68. So we'll just change that now, just to 72 or something. And then if we save that, and you can hear the fan ramping up there. So now we're at 35%, 37. It will come back down again. It's because the computer's trying to get itself down to 72 where I just set it, or 71, and then it should go back down to 35 again. So we'll just hold here for a second until it goes back to 35, and we'll just leave that for 5-10 minutes and see how that establishes itself. It should come down to 35. There it goes. So I'll come back in about 5 minutes time. As I say, we're looking for, the CPU was at 71 and the RSX was at 54 with this fan speed before we put the mod in. So yeah, let's see what that does. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so yeah, back with the final test. It's been running for about an hour now. As you know, I upped the fan speed to 35% to get a more accurate reading of what we had before in the last video to what we have now. And as you can see there, the CPU is now at 62 rather than the 71 it was on, and the RSX is pretty much the same as it was, 54. So it's theoretically 9 degrees less than it was in the previous video. So I'm very happy with the modification. Definitely a more safer way of actually of doing this modification rather than using a cut up pencil eraser or thermal pads. I feel like it gives it more stability doing it this way. And yeah, the machine itself has now been on for a good 2.5-3 hours since I got it, and yeah, it all seems to be working well. As you can see, it's definitely running a lot cooler than it was. I tend to have my fan more at 32%, so I'd expect the CPU to be more like 64, 65, and the RSX at 2 or 3 degrees more than that as well. But for a console that hasn't actually been delided, and for its age, it seems to have got a little bit more life out of it. It certainly wasn't good the way it was before, and it was ramping up to 35% on its own. This is why I'm having to actually manually adjust it to 35 to get more of an accurate comparison. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, thank you to everyone that subscribes, everyone that's been checking it out, everyone that's any thumbs up that have been out there. It's much appreciated. If you could, that'd be great. Just taking the trouble to film it for you. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Whatever you do, make sure you take care out there. And I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.